Ever notice how almost every new indie dev says our game is the next Mega Man, Mario, DK Country? But the final product often underwhelms. 2D platformers were once gaming gold. Tight controls, clever levels, and big personalities. But today, that nostalgia is both a blessing and a curse. With thousands of indie platformers released each year, fans have sky-high expectations. At the same time, the crowd of tired retro throwbacks has grown so large that most games barely get noticed. In fact, a recent market analysis of Steam games found over 5,600 indie 2D platformers, and the median game of those earns only about $528. Even reaching the top 5% means making only $59,000. In other words, the genre is oversaturated. If your game isn't polished and distinct, it will drown in the sea of similar titles. And it's not just business math that kills them. Bad design choices and rough game feel do too. Poorly tuned physics, cheap instant deaths, confusing mechanics or sloppy level layouts can make even a veteran dev's dream project a nightmare for players. We'll dive into the nitty-gritty of what's going wrong in modern 2D platformers, from control and physics blunders to level design pitfalls, and look at some real-world flops like Mighty Number 9 and Bubsy the Woolies Strike Back to see exactly where they failed. Then we'll flip the coin and examine shining successes like Celeste and Super Meat Boy to spot what they did right. By the end, you will see how focusing on fundamentals, smooth feel, clever levels, and genuine creativity can fix the genre. It all starts with expectations. Every few years, an indie team, often led by an old school dev, promises to recapture the magic of a beloved classic franchise. Fans flaunt the Kickstarter. Press hypes it up, and then the final game stalls on a pro-level polish. Mighty Number 9 is the poster child for this hype cycle. Mega Man's co-creator asked for $900K but got over $4 million in funding. Backers expected a modern Mega Man, but what they saw instead were dated graphics and awkward controls. One critic bluntly noted that Mighty Number 9 takes a proven Mega Man formula and somehow completely screws it up. It hit the wrong notes on so many levels: glitchy physics, weird face checking, combat mechanics, punishing instant deaths that fans felt scammed. Mighty Number 9 became the biggest Kickstarter failure since Oya, a cautionary tale that big promises gamers can't keep led to harsh backlash. And Mighty Number 9 isn't an isolated case. Look at Bubsy's 2017 reboot Woolies Strike Back. Bubsy had been asleep for 21 years, so all anyone saw was retro lens. Game Informer's review summed it up: Bubsy looked flashy, but gameplay feels very much trapped in the 90s, with a tiny moveset, jump and glide, and one-hit KOs everywhere. Every level and enemy had been done better elsewhere and long ago. The revival underwhelms and frustrates at every turn. Players were not thrilled to relive Bubsy's ancient design on modern hardware, even with nostalgia-filtered eyes. So, the combination of reckless nostalgia marketing and a hard modern audience is a big problem. Steam players today grew up with 3D games and demand depth. They're often not as starry-eyed about 8-bit imitations. As one indie market analyst notes, platformers and other Nintendo-style genres are extremely risky on PC. There are so many of them that the average game makes basically nothing unless your game stands out with world-class design and feel. It will probably fail. Fans will chase hype, but they remember when promises turn out empty. Let's break down the usual reasons modern 2D platformers trip up. These are the traps that turned Mighty Number 9 into a punchline or Bubsy's return into an embarrassment. Every failed title tends to have a mix of these: sloppy controls and game feel. The first rule of platformers is that your character must feel amazing to move. That means tight, responsive controls with no unneeded delay. Bad games skip jump buffering or quiet time, a few forgiving frames after stepping off a ledge. Without these, jumps feel brittle and punishing. As one tutorial on Platformer Feel explains, simple tricks like adding a small grace window to jump inputs or allowing a split-second delay after running off a platform make the game feel much better. Good games, Celeste, Meat Boy, add these by default. Failing games often don't, so players feel like the controls are fighting them instead of cooperating. Number 2. Cheap instant death traps. Relatedly, old school one-hit kill pits and spikes can turn a game into a pure trial by retry slug. Mighty Number 9 infamously resurrected the worst parts of Mega Man. It brought back limited lives and avoidable insta-deaths. One critic pointed out that it replicates traits from the worst Mega Man games, like unfair traps combined with no extra lives, making players restart entire levels constantly. Modern platformers almost never do that. If your level is punishing, you generally get frequent checkpoints. Refusing to adapt, as Mighty Number 9 did, feels downright cruel in 2025. PUBG's comeback also suffered from uneven hitboxes and sudden one-shots, which fed frustration. The lesson: missing jumps should be punishing but fair. If players die from a corner they can't clearly see or lose hours of progress from one bad click, you'll lose them. Another mistake is flat, uninspired level design. A lot of platformers fail because the levels feel like copies of each other. Great games teach you naturally through the stage layout, then build on that idea in smarter ways. Super Meat Boy and Celeste work because every obstacle feels deliberate, not random. When a game misses that, the levels turn into a boring grind instead of something fun to master. Technical polish issues. Even a good platformer can fall apart if it feels rough to play. Long load times, bugs, bad ports, or sloppy performance can kill the experience fast. Players expect clean controls, smooth animations, and stable frame rates. If the game looks unfinished or runs badly, it immediately loses trust. Lack of unique hook or originality. In a crowded market, a platformer needs something that makes people care. Too many games rely only on nostalgia and end up feeling like weak copies of all their classics. A fresh mechanic, a strong visual style, or a memorable idea can make all the difference. Without that, the game blends into the pile and gets forgotten. Mighty Number 9 tried so hard to be the next Mega Man that it ended up feeling like a weak copy instead. Right away, people noticed something was off. The visuals looked outdated, almost like a game from the previous console generation. Nothing popped, the environments felt dull, the characters looked flat, and for a game backed by over $4 million, that was a huge red flag. But the real problem wasn't just how it looked, it was how it played. And instead of sticking to what made Mega Man fun, the game introduced this strange dash into enemies mechanic to finish them off. It sounds interesting at first, but in practice it just felt awkward and forced. You weren't playing smart, you were throwing yourself into danger constantly, and it didn't feel good. On top of that, it brought back some of the worst old school ideas: instant deaths, limited lives, and punishing level design. So instead of learning and improving, players were just repeating sections over and over again. And then everything outside the game made it even worse. Delays, broken promises, and controversy killed the hype. By the time it launched, people weren't excited anymore. They were frustrated, and the result, Mighty Number 9, became a perfect example of what happens when you mix huge expectations with weak execution. It didn't just disappoint, it became a warning. Mighty Number 9 wasn't the only one that failed. Bubsy the Willy's Strike Back tried the same nostalgia comeback and ran into the same problem. It just felt outdated. Bubsy could basically only jump and glide. His attacks didn't feel reliable, and the levels never really evolved. You'd go through stage after stage, but nothing new happened, just different backgrounds with the same ideas. On the top of that, inconsistent hitboxes and limited lives made every mistake feel way more frustrating than it should have been. And that's the key issue. It didn't feel like a modern game, it felt like a weak version of an old one. And today, that's just not enough. Even a classic mascot can't save a game if the gameplay itself isn't fun. And now let's talk about what went right with Celeste and Super Meat Boy and why they are the perfect platformers. If Mighty Number 9 and Bubsy show what goes wrong, Celeste and Super Meat Boy show what goes right. And it comes down to one thing: perfect feel and smart design. Let's start with Celeste. This game is hard, really hard, but it never feels unfair. The controls are insanely tight. Every jump, every dash does exactly what you expect. No delay, no weird movement, just pure control. And the level design, it quietly teaches you everything. Each screen introduces an idea, then builds on it. So when things get difficult, you are ready. You are not confused, you are challenged. Now look at Super Meat Boy. It's even more brutal, but still fair. You only have a few moves: run, jump, wall slide, but every single one is perfectly tuned. The levels are built around that precision, so when you die, it feels like your mistake, not the game's, and that's why you keep going. And that is the difference. These games are polished. Every detail is intentional. They respect the player. They teach, they challenge, and they stay fair. That's how you make a platformer that actually works. So, how do you actually make a 2D platformer that doesn't fail? It's simple. Fix what others get wrong. Nail the controls. Movement has to feel perfect. Add things like jump buffering and quiet time so jumps feel smooth. Look at Celeste. Simple controls, but they feel amazing. If movement feels off, the whole game falls apart. Number 2. Design around your mechanics. Every level should teach the player something. Start simple, then build up. Games like Super Meat Boy design levels around your abilities, not random obstacles. Good design feels intentional, bad design feels lazy. Number 3. Avoid cheap deaths. Challenge is good, frustration isn't. Use checkpoints, let players retry fast. Make deaths feel fair, like it was the player's mistake, not the game's. Number 4. Polish everything. Even a great game can fail if it feels unfinished. No bugs, no frame drops, no weird animations. Look at how smooth Celeste feels. That level of polish matters. Number 5. Stand out. This genre is crowded. If your game looks and feels like everything else, it gets ignored. Games like Shovel Knight and Hollow Knight stand out instantly. Yours needs something memorable too. At the end of the day, the best platformers don't fight the player, they empower them. 2D platformers should be a safe bet, a timeless genre with tons of fans, yet ironically many recent ones missed the mark due to a mix of stale design, bad controls, and market fatigue. From Mighty Number 9 to Bubsy's Needless Return, we see the same mistakes repeated. But from the applause for Celeste, Super Meat Boy, and other hits, we see a clear way forward. Focus on the core experience, smooth feel, smart levels, and a sprinkle of originality, and the game will resonate. Combine that with realistic marketing, no overhyping, and you will avoid the traditional pitfalls. So the next time you boot up a 2D platformer, notice the little details. Is the character responsive? Do the levels teach and delight? Is the game polished and fair? Games that ignores those questions tend to flounder. But those that answer them, the Celestes and Meat Boys of the world, can still conquer the market, one pixel perfect jump at a time. See you in the next video.